Well, another week, another potential victory for UCF coming off of 2 straight losses. UCF heads to Cincinnati to take on a Bearcats team that is much improved from last season. What are the odds that UCF can get back in the win column and avoid going 0-3 the last 3 weeks? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. As always, we are sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, you know it. If you want to bet on UCF or any college or pro sports this season, FanDuel is the way to do it. The UCF line this week is 10.5. We're going to get into all of the lines for UCF this week, but it is the best lines out there. Use FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, a proud sponsor of the Charge On podcast. I'm on the road. It's been a couple weeks. I've had a little bit of time off. Not time off, but time off the road. But I'm back. But pods don't sleep. So we are doing a pod late Wednesday night. And what a game. You know, the October record, Nick, for the UCF Knights in the last 3 years is bad. They haven't won a game in October in 3 years. So, you know, we were kind of preseason looking at the schedule, and, you know, I think we all picked Kansas, the Kansas loss. We all picked the Kansas State loss. But I think both of us I can't remember if you picked Cincinnati or UCF. But we all kind of looked at Cincinnati as, okay, rivalry game. It is in Cincinnati, so it's a little bit more difficult. But hey, you could probably match up pretty well. You only lost by 6 last year. Granted, it was at home. You should have won that game, and you played god-awful. But you kind of looked at Cincinnati, Nick, because, is this the game? This is the game that UCF could win.
Scratch that.
We'll get into it. Spoiler, it's a tough game. A very tough game for UCF. Not saying they can't win it, and we're going to get into all of it because I think UCF matches up in certain aspects that is good. But I don't want to bury the lead. But it's a tough game. But, Nick, how you doing? And, you know, where is kind of your mindset at for this UCF team that's improved, but again, last week was kind of a bummer?
Yeah, last week was a bummer because it was such a winnable game as it turned out for UCF. It really was. And they let that one get away. And I know Scott Frost sort of likened it back to some tough losses that he had in the 2016 season. I think the Temple game that year, everybody I think he actually brought that one up, but I saw other people bring it up too. Yeah, got away from them. So they turned the page over here to Cincinnati, and it's a rivalry game. This is UCF's essentially their rival. Kind of ridiculous, by the way, side note, that they don't play Cincinnati next year. So, how can you
It's ridiculous.
It just doesn't make any sense how this is your literal rival and you don't play them every year, but nothing makes sense anymore in college football, does it? But,
no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking to see if UCF, after a loss like that, and in particular, the way they lost that football game with not being able to get the ball in on 3 opportunities at the goal line, I don't know if you've cooled down enough, Sean, from Saturday night, your anger towards that stretch, but they got to move on. And the test, they don't get any easier. In fact, I think it actually gets even more difficult because now you're going on the road and a place that you haven't exactly had a lot of success at. And I'll just say it off the jump, I don't really have the most positive outlook for the team going into this game. We'll talk through it, obviously, but a lot of respect for the opponent in Cincinnati and the Bearcats for what they've done this season. Probably a little unjustified that I don't think they got ranked this week in the AP poll, which feels a little silly to me. But they are quite literally a team that is a player 2 away from being undefeated. You know, a 3-point loss against a solid Nebraska team. So it's an even bigger test than I think last week was for this UCF team.
Yeah, again, I think that Kansas game, Kansas played really good throughout the game. And then again made some, bad plays there the last minute of the game to lose that. And Cincinnati ultimately, yes, they came out on top. They went on the road. That's hard to do. I think the offense is much improved. Brendan Sorsby, I was very critical of last year. I think he's shown massive improvements. I think they've kind of catered that offense to him and got him some weapons. But no, we're gonna get into it. But yeah, I think there's a frustration there because you're just assuming, Cincinnati's going to be, obviously Scott Satterfield's been there for a good couple years. I think it's his third year or something like that. Obviously, there's an expectation that you're supposed to improve at some point, and this is kind of the year where Cincinnati's taking that next leap. They've got a schedule where, if you kind of look at it, if you don't lose to Nebraska, you're 5-0, and you look at the schedule coming up, you've got UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, who is okay. They haven't showed that they're kind of the team that many thought. Utah, who's pretty good, Arizona, who's okay, and then BYU and TCU. So you got a hard stretch kind of towards the end of the year. Cincinnati, though, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. They could be going to a bowl game within the next 3 weeks, and just in terms of their scheduling. So, and yes, have they played, they did beat, and listen, the Iowa State win was huge. Last week against Iowa State at home, that was a huge win. I've been on the record saying I don't think Iowa State was as good as the record. I don't think Iowa State has shown really anything that makes me believe that they were that good of a team. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You beat the number 14 team in the country, and that's a huge win for that program. But let's kind of get into it. Nick, Scott Satterfield obviously is a coach that, we've been very critical of. It's kind of been the joke. Is Scott Satterfield that good of a head coach? Ultimately, he's kind of shown this season, in the short time, that he's kind of at least taking steps to make Cincinnati kind of a good football program again. But what have you seen from Scott Satterfield, maybe in his time in Cincinnati, but specifically this year?
Yeah, I mean, kind of up and down, I think, for Scott Satterfield coming into this year. And I was sort of curious maybe about his job security, maybe coming into this season in particular. But, I mean, they've really leveled up across the board under him this year. And I think, there's obviously a lot of good parts about this football team, but they brought back a lot of returning production when you look at, the quarterback position with Brennan Sorsby and him sort of leveling up and playing as well. I mean, really as well as any quarterback. I mean, not just in the Big 12, but I think in the entirety of college football. I think Brennan Sorsby has been that good. Evan Pryor is a name that we've heard of, for a while. Obviously, he's been doing his thing over there. Even guys in the skill position sets, Joe Royer, the tight end, he's been there for a while. Defensively, Corleone has been there. It's a lot of the same players, and it sort of has all, come together for them this season, and they look like one of the better teams in the Big 12. You mentioned it, big win over Iowa State last week, and granted, Iowa State went into that game a little banged up on defense, but I know the score looks closer, but for a while there, I mean, Cincinnati was dominating that football game. And then the week before, picking up a big road win against Kansas where it went all the way down to the wire, and they had that clutch drive that we talked about last week when we were previewing the Kansas game. So, yeah, he's got the program trending in the right direction. I'm sure that's maybe frustrating for UCF fans to an extent because these two teams are rivals, and they sort of came into the Big 12 and the unknown of that together. Granted, Cincinnati has had a little bit more, so to say, continuity, I guess, with the head coach, because obviously UCF has already fired a head coach at this point, and they have some of the same players and everything, and UCF had, 70 new players this year. So maybe it's not fair to compare them necessarily, but it has been a little bit, I think, impressive the way that Cincinnati has been able to get this train rolling in the right direction this season in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I think if they would have beaten Nebraska, we're talking about Cincinnati a whole lot different. We're talking about probably a ranked Cincinnati team, an offense that is just humming. Again, we're talking about a Kansas offense that looked really good. The difference between Kansas and Cincinnati is Cincinnati's defense is actually half decent. And that's kind of the difference. Now, Kansas showed some good things last week in the defensive end. It's not really that good, but I think Cincinnati's got some really good things on defense that really helps their, elite. I would say elite offense. I will say, just you mentioned it. UCF, we talked about it at the beginning of the season that, people might not want to admit it. I think Cincinnati fans and UCF fans have more accepted it. UCF and Cincinnati are the new rivals. I mean, coming from the American, they were the top dogs in the American. I think the series is 5-5. UCF has won 5 games. Cincinnati's won 5 games. The games have been electric. I mean, early in the time, and obviously when UCF was really, really good and Cincinnati was really, really good, the games were blowouts.
I was going to say the game last year though was not one was not one for the
it was electric because it was
for the
close.
record books.
No,
that was
UCF.
Was that? I tried to burn last year's season.
19-13.
It was 19-13, but was that the game that EJ Colson started, and then it ended up being the
for
Jakari
a series,
Brown show,
and then didn't play the rest of the game. Yeah,
that was
in UCF. Like you literally just felt if UCF gets one drive going that they win that game, and
it didn't happen.
So it is what it is. But that season it was just doomed. But that's also what you could say. Like at the end of the day, like UCF is starting over. You can't necessarily. Again, with all these teams that UCF plays, you can't really compare. It's a brand new coaching staff, entirely new roster, so you can't really compare. You can compare Scott Frost, a couple of years down the line comparatively to a Scott Satterfield Cincinnati team, but at the end of the day, it is still a rival, and you still want to win this game, and Cincinnati fans are going to go crazy for it. What I was going to say is, yes, it is absurd, and this has been a problem with when the Big 12 announced their scheduling. Like Iowa State and Kansas State don't play. I think next year for the first time in a long, long time, it is ridiculous. I think at the end of the day, if there's a semi-rivalry in the Big 12, you need to keep it. I get trying to get different matchups and stuff like that. UCF and Cincinnati need to play every year. And I think that's the one thing UCF fans and Cincinnati fans agree on is we need to play UCF every year, and then UCF fans saying we need to play Cincinnati every year. So I hope that I know it's tough. It's hard to switch the schedule, but I would really like the Big 12 to kind of rethink that moving forward because I think it's ridiculous. But let's get into the offense a little, Nick. This offense, to Brennan Sorsby's credit, obviously coming from Indiana, he's on pace. Last year, I think he had 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. He's on pace to have his best career. He's already got 12 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception. He's on pace to have the most passing yards of his entire career. He is playing lights out football. Now, granted, we'll get into the running backs and wide receivers that are helping him extremely. Like they have a really good run game and an elusive run game with multiple different backs, bunch of different receivers that are catching the football. But it does start with Brennan Sorsby, who it's been noted that he's probably one of the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in college football, and I thought that was hilarious. Now you're looking at it and you're like, he's playing the way he needs to play, and that offense is humming.
Yeah, I think that's sort of... You started to see a trend, I feel like, in college football where a lot of the younger quarterbacks, at least early on, have really struggled. And a lot of the quarterbacks who have been around for a while and have been in maybe one place for a while or just in general, like have gotten a lot of snaps under their belt at this level, they've sort of have leveled up their games this year while the younger guys are just started to struggle. And Brennan Sorsby certainly falls into that latter tier. And as we mentioned, he's playing really as well as anybody. He's actually been doing a really good job too of getting involved with his legs too. And he's got 5 rushing touchdowns this season for Cincinnati, almost averaging 7 yards a pop this season. So he's been dangerous there as well. So not really, I think the UCF defense, like I still feel, fair or good about them so far. I thought they played well enough to beat Kansas, and unfortunately the offense just was dead for the entirety of the second half, right? But this sort of how I felt like Kansas was their biggest test. I think this is even bigger for this defense to have to face this passing offense. And, they were able to do a good job and they held Kansas under their averages across the board last week. And let's see if they can repeat that performance in this game. It's going to be tough. I mean, the UCF pass rush was pretty much non-existent against Kansas, which we kind of figured would be the case. And then you look at this game and it's, Brennan Sorsby was been sacked 1 time this year. So I'm not expecting much from that standpoint either. It might be one of those bend, don't break scenarios. It's going to be a tough crowd and environment to obviously play in, and UCF is no stranger to that. So, yeah, I think Sorsby, again, he's just been phenomenal for the Cincy team, and probably the big difference of why they've turned it around a lot this year.
No, 100%. And obviously the skill position players help tremendously. I do think it's going to be a stark contrast. Obviously, Jalen Daniels did throw the ball pretty well last week. There were a couple times where you're like, oh, there's the Jalen Daniels we know. But I think this is going to be a complete opposite test. Like, yes, Brendan Sorsby can run the football, but it's not his goal. His goal is to pass the football. And he's dual threat. But I think if you're UCF, this is your I think in terms of biggest test, this is your biggest test against the best passer you've seen to date. This is going to be the best passing quarterback you've seen to date. And that's going to be a huge challenge. Like, we're really going to test and be able to see if this secondary is as good as we think it is. Now, again, at times, I think UCF gives up a lot of yards. And then when they get into the red zone, the hope and goal is you're not allowing touchdowns. And I think they did a really good job of that last week. I think it's going to be, like you said, even more of a challenge this week because there are so many guys that can get the football. And it's not just one guy. It's not just one running back. It's a multitude. And then when you add the quarterback run game into it, that's what makes the offense so dangerous. And you have to give Cincinnati credit. I don't want to, but you have to because it is a tough opponent. And not just the opponent being tough, but going on the road and doing it on the road. It kind of reminds me, Nick, of TCU last year. I think this offense is very similar in terms of just the amount of plays and the electric offense that it is. I do think that's kind of, in not saying it's the exact same offense, I'm saying it's more comparable to what you're going to see in terms of just a high-powered offense. It's going to put up a lot of points, and you need to make a couple stops, but also at the same time, your offense needs to kind of match up. Let's talk running backs really quick, because again, and this is kind of the same with the receivers. We can actually let's just group the running backs and receivers together because I think it's very interesting. They really have a three-headed, run game with obviously Brendan Sorsby, but at the same time, Tawee Walker and Evan Pryor. Walker's got 313 yards on 56 carries, 3 touchdowns. Evan Pryor has 33 carries, 301 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you've got 3 guys that can really kill you on the ground. Like, 3 guys. And then when you go over to the receivers, Nick, you look down the list. I mean, your top 3 receivers, 334, 295, 220, and Caleb Goody, Cyrus Allen, Jeff Caldwell. And again, they're catching touchdowns. Joe Royer, the tight end, has 3 touchdowns. So kind of this is where a good offense hums because you don't know, you can't lock down on one guy. And Nick, this offense, the Cincinnati offense, there are so many guys that can get the ball and make something happen for this Bearcats team.
Yeah, it really is a well-rounded attack, and you mentioned the running game, and Tawee Walker comes in, and he's been really good, and Evan Pryor, in terms of volume, he's getting like
electric, dude.
He's getting less volume than Tawee Walker to this point. He's averaging 9.1 yards per carry this season. Evan Pryor is, and so I think. Every UCF fan, after watching him a little bit last year, I think we know what he's capable of. I mean, he's got definitely that home run threat ability, and when he's in there, he just makes plays, and he's a guy that was sort of stuck in an Ohio State rotation for a couple years, but he's come to Cincinnati, and he's really starting to blossom as a really, really good running back this year in that split with Tawee Walker. And, you mentioned some of the receivers too. I think interesting, and I think he's the X factor for this game. I look at Joe Royer. Because coming into the season, I thought Joe Royer was going to be one of the more productive tight ends in all of college football. And I think he's certainly a guy who's I think he's definitely a dude that's going to get drafted in the middle rounds. I mean, he's an NFL type tight end. To this point this season, he's got the 3 touchdowns and everything. He really hasn't broken out or broken a game open necessarily this year. You can maybe kind of say, well, he had 104 yards against Bowling Green the second game of the season. Well, he had 2 catches and one of them was 73 yards. So he flashed that ability a little bit there. I know this guy's capable of a lot. Maybe this is just part of the fact that they're so deep at the skill positions. They're just spreading it around and it hasn't been like the Joe Royer show yet. But I just got a feeling that eventually he's going to have one of those games. He's just going to have one of those games where he sort of takes over. And, we've seen UCF have maybe some trouble with the tight ends a little bit this season. He's sort of like my X factor into this game. And I'm scared that this might be the game where he really, really starts to give an opposing team some fits.
Yeah. And again, I think this is where if you're UCF, the goal needs to be you hold them under 30. I mean, just like last week with Kansas, like if you told us UCF would hold Kansas to 27 points, me and you would have both said UCF's winning the football game. I mean, that's just the honest truth. Like, at the end of the day, Kansas defense isn't that great, but the Kansas offense is electric. And if you hold them to 27, you're probably winning that football game. I think with Cincinnati, it's just, number one, can you score against this defense, which we'll get into a little bit. And then this offense, yeah, like if you could somehow hold them to under 30, I think you're giving yourself a fighting chance. But again, like the road atmosphere is different. We saw how, like, this is really only the second time they're going to be on the road. The first time wasn't that pretty. They kept fighting, but it wasn't really close. How much of it is that, rival factor going to play into it? Like, are the guys going to be juiced, wanting to make up for the loss, like wanting to make up for the last 2 weeks? And Scott Frost even mentioned it. He says the guys buy into the highs and lows too much. Like, if everything's going good, it's going really well. But if things aren't going good, it's almost like they can't really get anything going. And he goes, that's because of being just a young team. And the difference between you and the Cincinnatis of the world is Cincinnati's gone through kind of those trials and the tribulations, and they have kind of the very same roster as they did last year. And they've gone through some of those. So kind of speak to that, like when you're on the road and you are a team that is kind of young and learning, how hard that can be to overcome it.
Look no further than the Kansas State game. I mean, I think that was pretty much the evidence right there. That looked like a young team that hadn't really played a lot of football together, and that was their first time going on the road. And the way that game started, I mean, you really couldn't script a worse start to that football game for UCF, and they were lucky that it was as close as it was early on, right? And they had to chase that game. I think that's the thing with UCF that scares me is you can argue it to an extent like, okay, what teams are built to play from behind, right? I think to an extent, it's difficult for everybody, but some teams just have those players, they have those guys that they can make it work. UCF just doesn't have those guys. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. I don't want to sound like they can't go in there and win the football game. Like, I don't want it to sound like, oh, this is a non-winnable football game. Let's just throw an L up there automatically. At the end of the day, this is college football. Crazy things happen all the time. Hello, UCLA just beat Penn State last week. You see that stuff happen from time to time in college football. So it's not like it's like a non-winnable game, but you just sort of look at it. Yeah, it's tough. And you just sort of looking at it. It's like, what's UCF's path to victory? And it's really hard to, I think, sort of find it short of them coming out and really surprising us.
Yeah, and I don't want to say I don't like the notion, like, I think last week against Kansas, there was a notion by me and you where it's like, yeah, they have no shot. And then they come out and we're like, oh, they should win this football game. And we came out of the game in a loss saying UCF should have won the football game. So I think the issue with UCF is not that they're not capable, which last season we could go into a game and be like, yeah, they're not capable. Like, they're not winning this game. There's no chance they win this game. And even if they showed fight, you knew they were going to make mistakes to lose it. I think this team, it's not really that. I think we kind of know what this team is. And me and you are both not saying they have zero chance to win this game. We're like, they shouldn't win this game. The team they're playing is much better and they're at home. But you watch last week and you say, okay, if you do the things you're supposed to do, if you don't have those long period of lulls, which we've noticed, that is kind of a staple. UCF has about a quarter where they are in a lull on offense and they can't get literally anything going. And that's because they don't have a run game. I think you talk about, and we can get into it when we get into predictions, but like the best thing for UCF will be if they can find a substance of a run game for 4 quarters, because that'll help your offense. If you can't, like, that's the problem. You don't have, listen, they have a pass game, but it's not elite. And if you can't run the football, your good pass game is not going to beat an elite team.
UCF has a pass game here. Is that what you said?
I don't count from last week. I get it. The pass game wasn't that great last week.
Let's also be aware that we are doing this thing again where we just don't know who's going to play quarterback.
That's valid.
Every week. And I think Scott Frost today, we're recording on Wednesday, he had his radio hit on 96.9 The Game. And he said for sure that Cam Fancher and Davi Belfort are healthy. Still not sure on Taven and Jakari. And I'm like, man, we are 5 games into the season, and we are already having to talk about. We are. No offense to him, obviously, but we are already like
we had to do that in week 1, brother.
We are exactly, but we are facing a scenario where Davi Belfort is the backup, going into a big division or a conference game on the road against your rival. So I think that pretty much says how it is. And if Cam Fancher has to start, I mean, I don't even know.
He did some okay things. He did some okay things.
It's just. I just think we just know what UCF is right now from a passing standpoint. They sort of are what they are. It's below average. It's below average to average at best.
Yep.
It's not going to get any better. They just do not have a great viable option. Taven gives them the best shot to win, but Taven is just super banged up right now. And it's not just one thing. It's like it's multiple things that at this point that he's dealing with. I think this latest thing, I think it's his hand that he's dealing with after he got absolutely rocked.
Yeah, we don't even know.
Against Kansas. We don't know for sure, but it looked like his hand on the replay. So
yeah,
even if he plays, I mean, how limited is he going to be? And if it's Cam, I mean, we kind of have seen the story of that. I don't want to necessarily have to see Davi Belfort. To be honest with you, I don't know. I just don't know. But
I get it. I don't know. I mean,
and then you said like, can UCF run the ball for 4 quarters? Well, based on what I've seen, the answer is to that question is no. And and this is the best run defense that they're facing at this point all year long. And if you go up and down that Cincinnati defense, I mean, these guys, and there's playmakers all over the field. And number one being Antoine Peak Jr., the safety. This guy from Pro Football Focus has a 93.5 rush defense grade. 93.5. Okay? He's got 2 forced fumbles this year. He had like 4 or 5 last year or something like that. So he is absolutely just a dangerous player on that defense. They're really good at linebacker. I mean, Dante Corleone, he's been out for a couple games this year. He came back last week against Iowa State. So is this the game where he sort of has his moment against UCF's offensive line, which is struggling, as we very well know. So, yeah, I don't really, like I said, I just don't have a good feeling going into this game, short of them, again, just showing us something completely different than what we've seen.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Ultimately, I don't want to give the same speech that we gave last week, because ultimately we gave the speech and we came out disappointed. UCF showed all the fight that we wanted. It wasn't a blowout. They competed, and that's what we wanted. I think it's kind of similar in this week. And again, I'm not saying they can't win, because I think there are things that UCF can do that can make it a game. And the only issue with Cincinnati is kind of there is a different confidence. And it's not like they're going to be on a look ahead, because after UCF, it's Oklahoma State, right? So they're not like going to be looking ahead to a certain team. At the end of the day, they're probably looking and licking their chops saying, we could be 6-1. Like, we could be 6-1, already have, bowl game dialed in, and then our hardest stretch of the season, we should be playing our best football and potentially be competing for a Big 12 title. So it's like the aspirations are a little bit different. That's why I don't think there's going to be a lull. They're coming off their biggest. Yes, there's a potential for a hangover. You had your best win last week. So maybe for UCF, it's like you hope and pray that that's kind of what's happened.
And also let's also see from a UC, because we were talking about the passing offense a little bit. I think we could probably gather by the way that game sort of ended that it looks like the wide receiver sets might look a little different. Maybe to start this game, because I think Scott even said it after the Kansas game. They were trying to work in. We saw a lot of Waden in that game. He played like 70 snaps or so against Kansas. We saw some more Carl Jenkins. We saw some more Chris Domerkant. We saw less of DJ Black, and we saw less of Dwayne Thomas as well. So what does that look like? Does that provide a spark? But again, you're also talking about 2 true freshmen in the case of Waden Charles and Chris Jenkins.
Isn't Chris Domerkant a freshman, or am I going crazy?
Chris Domerkant?
I think he's a freshman too. I think they're all freshmen.
No, he's a senior. He's a senior.
Chris Domerkant's senior?
Yeah, he's a senior.
Well, I was way off with that one. Here's my thing. I am fine this season and in future seasons. I like playing young guys. And to be fair, Wade and Charles and CJ Jenkins when they're out there, there's been one mistake made by Carl Jenkins Jr.
I don't know why, by the way. I was calling him Chris Jenkins, Carl Jenkins. Apologies.
Yeah. Well, it's good. No, you said, or I think you didn't say Chris.
I feel like in my head, I'm like, wait a second, did I call him Chris Jenkins?
No, you didn't say Chris. You didn't. You called him Carl.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
But he goes by CJ. But when they are out there, they don't make mistakes. They made CJ made one mistake in the one game, which did take back a touchdown. I think it might have been the North Carolina game, potentially, where there was a hold, and it was like, basically on the 1 yard line, he held the guy, and they called back a touchdown. I forgot what game that was, but the rookie or the freshman wide receivers are going out there and they're not doing anything to not play. Now, granted, do I want to see some more plays out of them? Yes, I want to see you get them the ball. Like, that's kind of what I want to see, but also the last couple of weeks, it's been tough to get kind of anybody involved. And I think Dwayne Thomas is their best receiver. Like, personally, I think Dwayne Thomas has proven to be their best receiver. I think you kind of have to play him. But at the same time, with this season specifically, I would much rather get those freshmen as many reps as humanly possible so that next year, when you don't have some of the guys that you're playing now, you have a set of wide receivers that have so much game action that they take a next step.
Great.
So I personally, sub in. Do the subs you've been doing.
I like to see a coach that gives some of the young players some opportunity.
Give them opportunities.
Personally.
All right, let's go into predictions. Obviously, sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Use it. The line on FanDuel this week is -10.5 Cincinnati. I think the line, if I'm not mistaken, opened at like 13.5. So this is now a trend where the line opens up, and then as the week goes on, it kind of it's still not favoring UCF, but it's kind of given UCF a couple points here to where they say it's a 10.5 point game, and then the over-under is 53.5. As always, Nick, I will let you go first.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be a little bit closer to that original line that it opened with. I am going Cincinnati 34 and UCF 21. I'm going to go 21. So I got a pretty convincing victory, I'd say, for Cincinnati going in, which I think, it was 38-30 against Iowa State. Iowa State is a better team than UCF. It's on the road. Don't know who's playing quarterback, so that's hard to judge. I think I want to believe that the run game can get fully going for a full 4 quarters, but last week it looked great for a half, and then it just stalled out again. And felt like going back and watching a little bit of that game that they were just sort of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over on offense and it wasn't working. And I don't know why they just kept going to it as if that was like their strength, even though it's not right now. So yeah, pains me to do it, but Cincinnati 31, UCF 21, or no, UCF. I cannot speak. Cincinnati 34, UCF 21.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go kind of similar to the line that's out right now. I'm excited to see Miles Montgomery play. He didn't really get many snaps against Cincinnati. I think he was banged up. Like, he had the injury last year, which is weird. But he still played, just didn't give it as many snaps. And obviously you had RJ Harvey as your starting back. I kind of want to see Miles in his final season kind of go off against his former team. I know he thought coming here he was going to be able to beat him. No. Lost last year, and this year it's looking bleak. I want to see if I really hope UCF can keep it a little close going into the fourth quarter. Like, I want to see if they can fight on the road. Obviously, your score prediction is closer to the Kansas State score prediction. And let's be real, that game wasn't really close anyway in general until late, where UCF kept fighting. That's what I'm saying. I don't want it to be a blowout early. Keep it close. Lose at the end. I think it's going to be 34-24 UCF. So technically, if I'm taking the line, I'd go UCF plus 10.5.
You mean 34-24 Cincinnati?
What did I say?
You said 34-24 UCF.
Oh no! Oh, golly! Oh, sorry, guys. No,
we wish we could do it, but we have
let's
to.
Not again. I want them to win. I mean, I'm not. Let's not kid ourselves. I want UCF winning this game. But no, I am going 34-24 Cincinnati here. It's just tough. Like, these teams are better than you. And again, there's been teams that were better than UCF, and UCF went and beat them. But I think the issue right now is UCF has not proven in the last couple. I mean, again, if you really think the last 3 years, when was the last time UCF won like a really good road game? You really can't think of it. Like, you can't pop in your head and be like, UCF went on the road. Like, UCF went on the road a couple years ago and beat Cincinnati 28-26 on the road. I think that's literally the only road win that UCF has won on the road in Big 12 play. And the entire time they've been in the Big 12. So it's just hard. Like, to go on the road and beat some of these teams, you have to play perfect. And unfortunately, right now, UCF is in this limbo where at times they play really, really good football, where they can beat anybody they play. You saw that last week. In the first half, they were playing extremely good football. If they kept playing like that, they were going to beat Kansas. And then there were times against Kansas State where if they played like that, they would have beat Kansas State. The issue is because they're so young, because of their inexperience, they can't put it together for a full 4 quarters. And when you're playing a team like Cincinnati, you have to if you want a chance to beat them. So, not saying they can't win. I think they can. They just need to find, I think if you can control, again, time of possession, keep the ball away. I know it's so simple when we say it every week, but it's so true. Like, you can't go 3 and out. You have to control the football a little bit and move down the field just a tad to give, the other team some bad field position, give you better field position, and ultimately kind of keep the score semi close and low. But yeah, I'm going to go Cincinnati 34-24. All right, Nick, any final thoughts?
I hope everything I said in this podcast does not happen.
I agree.
And it's a different outcome, because I would enjoy a win. This whole October thing.
I hate Octobers.
I guess, I just don't pay attention to, when these games are played and records and months and stuff. I just didn't put much stock into it. But,
yeah.
Now I've realized after what happened last week against Kansas, it's like a real fear.
We haven't won in October.
That they just cannot win games in October. What is it, going back to 2022? Yeah, this trend of going 3-0 and getting everybody's spirits up and then immediately losing 3
it's
after.
The same thing.
It's like the most nauseating thing. So it would be great if they could break that trend and get back to some momentum before they go and play one of their more winnable games on the schedule in West Virginia, which will be a 1:00 kickoff, which love to see it. That's
we don't deserve night games. I'm sorry. We don't deserve it.
Don't deserve the night games.
You guys don't show up anyway. Not you. You guys are loyal, but you know who I'm talking to. The ones that leave at halftime. I want to mention it.
Okay.
I have a coworker. They have season tickets. Her husband and her kids have season tickets. They have a 6-year-old. They have 2 girls. They have a 6-year-old. They left early. They left with 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and it's because the 6-year-old was tired, crabby, and wanted to leave. The 6-year-old, they stayed through the rain. They stayed. 2 little girls stayed through the rain, but grown adults, the rain lets them leave. Just want to throw it out there. That's
a lovely story. So
just want to throw it out there. But no, we love 1:00 kicks. We love 1:00 kicks here at Charge On. So that's exciting. But to close, yes, I want to emphasize this would be a great win. We're not supposed to win this football game. Next week is crucial. The road to 6, I know nobody wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to be like, we should be better, blah, 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 blah. You have 3 games that you will be favored in. 3. The rest you will not be favored in. Those 3 games are your last 3 home games. I know Houston, you should be favored. Oklahoma State, you definitely will be favored. And West Virginia, you'll be favored. That is your path to a bowl game. All the other ones would be icing on the cake if you could potentially come out and win them. This is an opportunity to do that. Last week was an opportunity. If you could have beat Kansas at home, then you give yourself a little cushion. Right now, unfortunately, UCF does not have a lot of cushion. UCF has 3 must-win games The others, if you could somehow pull out a win, you give yourself a little cushion if, God forbid, you lose one of those must-wins. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now.
Hey, I feel like we can't go unless we have to if we have to do a quick thought on
no, we don't want to ruffle the feathers. I know what you're gonna do.
No, you don't know what I'm gonna do.
I know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, do you think I'm gonna bring up the uniforms?
Yep.
I'm not gonna say anything bad about the uniform if that's what you thought.
Was that what you were gonna bring up?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the uniform, but
okay, so I know exactly what you're gonna bring up.
You said ruffle any feathers. You're like,
okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say something bad.
Go ahead.
I will admit my first glance at the uniforms, I saw it and I was like, meh. And then Sean, I stewed on it for a little bit. I took some more peeks. I had some more time. I sat down and I went through all of the social posts, and there were many of them, and I got to see it from every angle. I did not realize at first when I saw it that the numbers was like, I don't know what you call that. It's like just if you're like traveling through hyperspace, or I guess whatever.
Yeah.
I saw that, and then I saw like the emblem that's up here and everything. I have changed my tune, Sean. I'm actually a big fan of this year's space uniforms.
Did you see the helmet? The helmet?
I did. The helmet is
like,
badass.
Where it's like the stripe through the middle. It's like almost like literally like the rock. It's like, yeah, I like that. And the numbers are my favorite part.
My only thing I hate is like with these space uniforms is the ones that fans can buy.
They sell. Okay.
That is my take. Those
yes, dreadful.
Stink.
Dreadful. Like the ones that the players wear, great. Fire. Looks great. The number, favorite part. The ones that they sell. UCF, I don't know who we need to talk to. It is god awful.
This is the same thing with the ones last year. Remember last year?
Awful. Like you need to figure it out. Like I don't know what. Like maybe it's I don't know.
I don't like that the ones you sell, you don't get like that logo that's up here.
You don't get it.
You just get the Citronaut, and I don't know why, but like that Citronaut, like I love the Citronaut logo. Don't get me wrong, but
it's
on that
overused.
Particular jersey, after seeing what they have there that the players are wearing, it kills the whole thing for me.
It does. No, it does. Yeah, I will not be buying one. Not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying it is ugly.
Go crazy. Go crazy.
Yeah, go crazy. Go stupid.
Support all the local stores.
I prefer like the shirts, because the shirts, like now the shirt, you know how every year they kind of have the same shirts and it's like, okay, that's just a retread. No, this year they have like the hyperspace in the stuff, which I'm like, that looks cool. But no, that jersey is, do you? If you like it, you're not, everybody's got their taste. I just said the sleeves way too long and way too, like, it just doesn't look proportionate. It looks weird. And then the jerseys, the players have like a half cut, and it's like, that looks sick. That looks cool. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad. Good job, Nick. I was a little nervous.
You thought I was gonna poo poo on it.
I was. I didn't. I like the jerseys. I just don't like I hate the ones they sell. But
honestly, if I were to adjust my space, I'm not going to do a full ranking here. But if I've had to, like, I went back and looked at all of them to see where this one measured up. I think I can confidently say the only one that I continue to just be like very wishy-washy about is the 23.
22? Yeah.
No, the 23 one. The one with the all blue. I think the all blue.
I like that one.
I don't know. I think the all blue is just a little too much for me.
It looks so clean.
The more I look at it, I'm like, I like it when I like the black jerseys. I like the white ones. Yeah, I can get down with the gray ones, but that blue one, I think that blue one is coming in last for me.
It's kind of fire. I don't know. Definitely top 3 for me. Okay. All right, everybody. Let me know what you guys think about the space jersey. Like I said, we're not going to get too crazy.
It's the most important thing of this week, of course.
Yeah, we'll do our ranking probably when the space game is actually here. But drop down in the comments below. All right, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. As always, we're sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Bet on UCF if you will. If you believe in UCF, it's 10.5 on FanDuel right now, Wednesday night. Maybe you get a better line in the next couple days. Keep checking FanDuel. They have the best lines out there. Check FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, I will be doing a live watch along. Sometimes I regret doing them, but I love doing them for you. Please tap in. Nick, you're gone? I'm doing this by myself, right?
I'm scared to even say where I'm going to be this weekend.
You're gone, right?
I am gone.
Yes. Oh, yes, you're gone. We're not talking about it. Okay, yes,
we're not talking about it.
Nick is off the grid. You will be just having this face again for 4 straight hours. So definitely come and join me. Last one did really well. We're going to do this one again, and we're not doing it for Baylor. So this is going to be the last live watch along for a good chunk of time. So make sure you come in, join me, and hopefully we'll be celebrating a UCF win. All right, everybody, this has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We will see you on Saturday.